Well, mm, hello to you all. Good afternoon. So, this will now be my review for Bleach chapter 565, titled God Like You. Um, and this week chapter was very interesting, and the kind of explanation that Kubo did on this chapter was very much needed at this point in the story, in my opinion. And basically, Kubo kinda gave us an explanation about what is Yabak or Yuabach. I prefer Yuabach, it's easier for me to say in this way. And they kind of explain us that basically Yua apparently was human child that was born with a special ability. And basically, apparently, when he was born, he could not hear, see, he does not have any senses awakened, but apparently, he possessed the innate power of help others or share with others parts of his own spiritual energy, of his own spiritual soul. Um, and when he was a young boy, basically everyone that touched him in person, if they have any kind of disease or any kind of problem, that situation will be cured, and they will live for a short amount of time, medium amount of time, long amount of time. It all depended. But the interesting aspect of this is that after the person that, let's say, has access to this, let's say, kind of blessing from the part of Chua, when this person dies, the soul, the energy that was shared with that person, return back to Jua, and with all the experience, knowledge, and so on and so forth. So this was very interesting as an explanation how the powers of Jua works, and but at the same time, in this chapter we basically see three characters. We see Jua, we see Ashford, and we see Ishida, Uryu. And basically, uh, Ashford, in a way, he kind of explains to Uryu that the ritual that he did in the past when he was in the room with Chua and drank that cup, he apparently drank Jua's own power and kind of became bounded to him. So, and Ashwald also explains that the letters, the system of the letters, basically the letters were imprinted into one soul, and the higher is the letter, the great, the more great amount of power was shared with the person that received the letter. So, by default, all the letters that are pretty close to the letter A that is of Jua, obviously, they have a lot more power and battle power, and they have battle powers much more higher. The higher the ladder, the higher the power of the holder of that ladder. And that was kind of, it was already alluded, or I already also in one previous or past video. I also think that I spoke about this, how the system could work or not, and other reviewers also alluded to that situation. So, uh, and basically, then we also learned that it's not only applied to Quincy's, but is also applied to Shinigami. So whatever comes in contact with Jua, um, they kind of fall into his, um, let's say, area spectrum of radius of power. And when this person die, either a Quincy or a Shinigami, his experiences, his power will go to Jua. So that was a little far fetched, I must say, because yes, I do understand if that applies to the Quincy's, but applying that principle also to the Shinigami that eventually come in contact with Jua or fight against Jua or something like that, it's kind of a little far fetched in my opinion. But uh, nonetheless, this chapter was very much needed at this point in the story. I don't think that this chapter explains all about Jua. I do hope that in the future Kubo will explain more about Jua, about how he's grow, how he's awake, and how his powers works, and more in detail. But so far, the this explanation that he gave us, it was very good and it was very interesting one. So that was quite a very informative and very interesting chapter, and is a good way to make a transition chapter between moments into in action, because at the end of the chapter we see that the dawn is breaking, so we will now enter the second day of the war. Um, Also, we also see the confirmation how the powers return to Jua after the Stone Reader dies, and when he spoke something about James and says that James is dead, and then he says something that welcome back or something like that. He received the power of mass the masculine. So this kind of says that basically Renji did finish off Mask at the end of the last chapter, and that Mask is dead at this point. Then the situation about that I found interesting also in this chapter was the situation with Uriel and Ashford. But again, we see that Ashford he continues to distrust Uriel, and he does not. And even I, as a reader, I could not understand exactly what Uriel intended to do. He says to Ashford when Ashford confronts him that he wanted to ask something to Jua, but Ashford says that the Jua could not be disturbed during his sleep. And Ashford also says that basically a parent, like I did say, and others also say that Uriel joined the Quincy's in a way to avenge his mother. So that, but that is kind of strange because this kind of implies that Uriel does not know that Shua was the reason why his mother was killed. That situation is still unclear, and it's unclear if he did, after all, talked with Ryuken. He did not talk with Ryuken. He kind of decided to join the Quincy's because he think that his mother was killed by some strange reason, and he wants to understand why she was killed and avenge her. So this kinda is a very fuzzy and unclear situation if Uryu indeed knows that the Dashval and this early selection of Jua was the reason why Katagiri dies or died in the end of the process, or did not talk with Ryuken? Probably not. It's still unclear the reason why Ishida decided to join the Van der Reich in this war against all society. Besides the fact that yes, he hates Shinigamis, he hates all society, so long and so forth, but that uh, patch link, that connection between did he talk with his father, did he not talk with his father, um, that's is still missing, and I venture to say that maybe she knows that his mother died because of the Oshval and the Holy Selection, and he intends to kill Chue himself. That's still a very unclear path or situation at this point in the story. But besides this, it was very interesting to see the some background about Jua, how his powers works, some explanation on Jua. We also see that Uriel is still not trusted, and he will never be trusted by the Stern Reiters. We learn that Ashfall basically is kind of the guard, apparently, of Jua, and when Jua enter into these kind of sleeps or rests or something, Archibald is the one that takes over and stays vigilant to prevent some harm that happens to Jua. And then the chapter ends in a very also strange way because we see Jua awakening, saying that dawn is here, and he says something that all his senses are still there. So this is even the end is kind of strange and not perfectly clear or understandable or something like that. But it was a very good chapter. I like it a lot. As next week, I don't know. Probably we will change again to the battle camp because I don't. I highly doubt that we will see more from Jua for now or get more explanation on Jua's powers. I think that we will go to the battle camp and we will see eventually what's Rukia going on. Um, if Ishigo arrives or arrives not at Soul Society, maybe we could see Zaraki, eventually Unowan, know or understand if she is dead or she is not dead. Probably we will see other battles developing, so that will be interesting. But this is it. This was kind of a very, very, very interesting chapter. I like it. I like the explanations, and well, I'm looking forward for the second day of the war between the Van der Reich and the Soul Society. So, stay well, peace, and see you soon.